reading from the FBI. This basically goes into the basics of what we are. We're a threat-focused organization. One of those threats is human trafficking. It is known to be arguably second or third largest criminal activity in the world. It affects U.S. citizens and people from overseas, different countries alike. With no bias between that, and there's no demographic bias either. You can be from any different walk of life, and you will be affected by this. The last part of it there is very important because I don't think people really understand this. They look at us and they say law enforcement. We're just out to make cases. That's what we do. We are very victim-centered. Quite honestly, more victim-centered than I think most places. We spend a lot of time making sure people that we identify as victims are given a path to moving forward with their lives. I'll go into details with that. But that is a large part of what we do. A large part of, as an agent working these cases and a detective like John as well, we spend a lot of time doing social work to make sure the victims are in a better place. Okay, just to begin, these are some quick dates. I believe by junior year high or middle school, you guys are aware of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. The lesson.
Just working.
Where you want to go, just put your ears, you're going to apply technical adjustment. Test. Test. Everybody outside will hear you as well. Alright, I'm just going to hold this. So the last part here in the timeline, it goes through when the FBI was created in 1908. I'd say the next important date, or one of the dates that was really important, at least for law enforcement fighting human trafficking, is in October 20th, 2000. That was the first comprehensive federal law that actually helped us work these cases. And from there, things have grown quite exponentially. And in October of this year, that's when our task force was formed in New York. All right, so what is human trafficking? This is the basic definition of human trafficking. The one thing I know everybody has the opportunity to read, the one thing to take out of this is the word coercion. Because while you have force and fraud that's involved in taking control of somebody, coercion is probably the most prevalent and important thing here that you have to understand. And I'll go into that in more detail. Okay, so your types of human trafficking. They're broken down into three different groups. One being commercial sex trafficking, which I think people kind of think of primarily when you're thinking of human trafficking. Involves prostitution and several different types that you can see up there. The second part is labor trafficking. That involves people being forced to work at sweatshops and factories and different places as well. And the last part is domestic servitude. This is what the categories include, like housekeeping and childcare. For all of you, I know you're probably beyond that age now, but everybody at some point watched Disney movies when you were young. Okay, so pay attention to the lessons you'll learn during those movies, especially Cinderella, Pinocchio, Tangled, those movies. They actually touch upon domestic servitude and labor trafficking. If you really pay attention to them, you have Cinderella, who is forced to work and not allowed to leave where she lives. Pinocchio all the boys at the end are forced to work. And I forgot exactly what they made at the end, but there was a whole bunch of children that were considered lost boys, throwaways, that this individual took advantage of. And then you have Tangled, where you have another domestic servitude, where Rapunzel is stuck up in a castle by a woman that is keeping her there to basically keep her alive. So a lot of people get this confused. What is the difference between human smuggling and human trafficking? It's important to know the difference because I think people tend to think, well, it's the same thing as human smuggling. They want it to happen. They want to come to the country, whatever it may be. That is not the case. It's a very distinct difference. One difference is human smuggling is a crime against the border, where human trafficking is a crime against a person. Human smuggling is consensual, someone wanting to come here, versus someone being trafficked, which is non-consensual. Human smuggling is always international. Human trafficking is international or domestic. Human smuggling requires physical movement, where human trafficking does not. And the contract ends at the border for human smuggling, but there is no contract for trafficking because someone is being forced. They're not agreeing to do anything. Now, what you will commonly see, though, is human smuggling can be used as a way to facilitate trafficking. So that's where people can get confused, where someone might think they're coming here willingly, and then they're forced into either labor trafficking, domestic servitude, or sex trafficking. So the elements of trafficking that we have to prove and what we look for are force, this is physical force. This is what everyone, I think, kind of understands or really thinks is what trafficking is. Hold on one second. Okay. The next part, fraud. This is where someone is told they're going to be doing something, and then before they know it, they're doing something else. It might be, you're going to be working at a hotel, and then they're forced into prostitution. And coercion, once again, the important thing. This is something I'm going to go into the next slide on, right here. I kind of refer to it as the invisible fence. People don't seem to understand how someone can be a victim and be allowed to walk around. You can say, oh, how is this person a victim? They're allowed to go to the store, they go here, they go there. They're not a victim. Well, in fact, they are, because in many ways, coercion is established by him or trafficker that allows them to do certain things. But that victim is so brainwashed and so beaten down that they may be allowed to go to the store, but they know if they don't come back, they're going to be killed, or they're going to be beaten, or something's going to happen to them. That it may throw people off and think, well, there could be a problem, when in fact they're quite, in reality there is. Why is it still happening? That's one of the reasons why it still happens. This is business. This is for people that want to harm people and treat them as a commodity, to not treat them as a human. They look at them as a good, something that can be sold. This is why it happens. It's greedy people that have no respect for life. And this is part of the cycle. One of those reasons is, this is a kind of an age-old saying that we use when working these cases. You have, with people, they can be sold over and over and over again. With drugs, you sell them once and they're gone. And that's why one of the things we do see a lot of people that were drug dealers early on, then switch over into trafficking because it's so much more lucrative. All right, how are we fighting? All right, so this is the basic component of our task force. We have the special agents, task force officers, our analysts, victim specialists, and the prosecutors. But this is who we also work with. We have other law enforcement partners. We have government agencies. Some of you may be surprised, but we work a lot with ACS, and they are incredibly helpful. I know they're in the news a lot for negative things. They do a lot of good work with us, a lot of good work. And we have NGOs. These
these are organizations that are established just to help victims. That's what they do. They're nonprofits, and they do a lot of good work. And the last part is community assistance, because we're not going to even touch on any of this without people helping from the community. All right, this is, for all of you that may watch some TV, law enforcement shows, or whatnot, this is kind of the basic structure of how we have to work investigations. It starts off, and this changes, so it's not always the same way, but what you'll see here is you start with a crime. There are allegations that are being made at some point, whether it's we proactively find out about it or people come in and tell us. And then we try to determine from there, are we going to be able to work it? Do we refer it to somebody else where it may be more appropriate? Or is there so little information there that we can't do anything with it? From there, the investigative phase starts. That's where the fun is. That's where we go out and we start talking to people. We start analyzing things. We start doing all the things that make my job and our job a ton of fun. And from there, we look to move towards prosecution. So you have grand juries, you have people sitting in a room with the courts and whatnot, and you look to get charges against them. So then you go out and arrest that individual. It doesn't stop from there, though. We then have preparation for trials. We have discussions with people potentially fleeing. Different things happen from there. If they then go to trial or they plead, they then are sentenced. And then after that is the corrections phase. People in jail. The one thing, if you notice on the top, that touches on everything is victim assistance, because pretty much from the beginning, we are working to make sure that that victim is okay and that they're moving forward with their lives. Regardless of legal status, the victim specialist can help find all of these different things here, okay? We do not care if you're in the country with status or not. It's you're a victim or you're not. I'm not in the business of deporting people. I'm in the business of helping people. We are in the process of trying to work with people. We help with status. That's a big thing that we do. If there's somebody that is brought here from a different country and they are trafficked, we can actually help get them status. But it is very important for everybody to understand, because there's a lot of fear with people coming forward, especially now when law enforcement talk to us, that for our purposes, their status is irrelevant. All right, so this is the kind of the hammer that people need to understand: the charges, what we can bring upon the actual subjects, the targets, the people, the perpetrators, what they're doing. We can bring cases either locally to the DA's offices, which I'm sure you guys have probably heard of district attorney's offices. Does that sound right? Yes, everybody. Federally, they're called the United States Attorney's Office. So similar type of thing, but much at federal level, not for state. So we bring cases both places. But you'll see from here, we have federally, we have mandatory minimums. So that means, and a lot of people here, they say, oh, this guy got 5 years in jail, they kicked out after 3 weeks. That's not how it works federally. Federally, if someone gets a 10-year mandatory minimum, you're doing 10 years. If you force a minor into prostitution, we do not have to prove forced drug conversion. You just have to prove that you forced them, or they engage in prostitution at your behest. And that's a 10-year mandatory minimum. If they force a minor, it's a 15-year mandatory minimum. If there's more than 3 minors, it's a 20-year mandatory minimum. And there's multiple counts that go on top of that. Okay? So one thing to keep in mind is this is not a smart business. We're going to get you at some point. There is a ton of this, but we're going to get you at some point. And when we do, you'll be in jail for the rest of your life. All right, one of the things we do with the FBI, we have this thing called the Innocence Loss Initiative in Operation Cross Country. It's every year, a 3-day period, which changes throughout the year. We, as law enforcement throughout the entire country, and now there's other countries involved, we go out and we do proactive operations in order to try to identify victims of trafficking. As you can see, the stats, as high as the numbers may look, unfortunately, there's so much of this going on that it really doesn't put the dent in that it needs to, but it's definitely a worthwhile. Alright, so this is for all you cell phone owners and users, which I think everybody has one here. No? You're the one that's going to benefit the most, I'll tell you that, because it can cause a lot of trouble. So look at this for a second. This is going to take a little thinking, and I might throw some questions in here for you guys to read stuff. 40%, between the ages of 9 and 14, 40% of kids connected with a stranger online. Okay? Now, starting at 9-year-old, right? Like how much knowledge do you really have of what you should not be doing and what's going on the internet? If you look into the rest of these stats, it's scary. Because very early on, when you're first using the internet, you're interacting for several years with people you do not know and have no idea what their motivations or motives are. So we jump to ages 13 to 17. These are the ages when you're dealing with kids, and it's there as well. You're trying to sort things out in your life, there's a lot of emotions going on, you're looking for the right friends, whatever it may be. And what ends up happening, if you look at these, you see how much usage kids are going on online, or how much internet usage they have. And quite honestly, looking at it, it's just more or less kids just looking at connect. So here's the concern. If you've already established something from the age of 9 through 13, 14 with strangers, and then when you get to this age and you're looking to find somebody to connect to, you already have a group of people that you probably shouldn't be friends with online that you're going to be looking towards. And those people have friends. Or they may be the problem themselves. And you have to be very, very careful with who you're talking to. Alright, so this slide I look at it initially as saying, to me this is the American dream. You have one person smiling in your entire life. Right? Every stage of this young lady's life, she's smiling. The next part is not the American dream. First question, what age do you think a kid starts out the first time that's involved in sex trafficking? Raise your hand, anybody. It's got to be a kid. Yes. You next. Yes. What? Thank God, no.
3. 9.
A little higher. No. Yep, lower. No. Good girls here.
10 and 9.
Close. Nope. 13. Alright, the average age of victim who is first trafficked is 13. The other scary thing is working. Yes. Alright. The other scary thing about this slide is that 50% of sex trafficking victims are under the age of 16. So think about the whole universe of sex trafficking victims. 50% of them are under 16. Next question. Why do you think that's the case? Anybody over here? Young lady over there. Yes, you. That is a good enough answer. Very close. So I'll give you your prize as well. One thing you have to keep in mind is that a lot of pimps, they prey on kids that are young. Because they prey on kids that are young because they know that they're not experienced, they're a little more naive than an adult. And that's why you end up with a stat. Okay. There's another stat from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. 18,500 runaways were reported in 2016. 1 in 6 of those 18,500 will be to be sex trafficking victims. The next stat is disgusting. 86% of those were in care of social services and foster care. Okay? 86%. And the sole reason for that is it's generally a kid that's just looking for some family, and a pimp pretends to be family. That's what we see over and over and over again. There's another stat we're dealing with, ranking 100 most populous cities with National Human Trafficking Resource Center recalls that came in. New York is number 2. I guarantee you New York is number 1. This just falls into this one place. Houston doesn't have 40,000 cops. They don't have the same resources that we have here. So that would lead to calls to other places as well, which I can tell you in aggregate much higher. And unfortunately, put us in a number 1 spot that we don't need to be. So here's some stats as well for you guys in the Bronx in regards to prostitution. And I'm focusing a lot on sex trafficking because this area, there's a lot of it going on in the neighborhood and in the surrounding areas. What you can see is Bronx is ranked number 4 or 5 in boroughs with prostitution arrests. Next question. Sure, no problem. So if you see here, prostitution arrests between January 1st of 15 to September 21st of 17, Bronx was ranked number 4 of 5 boroughs, meaning the 4th in 5 boroughs, one of the lower ends. So I actually want to ask a question here. I think it's probably a little bit too long to get to, but and then the year below there, it's broken down in Bronx and shows the decrease over the years from 15, 16, 17. One thing that is important about statistics, as you're growing up, as you're learning, when you see numbers on the news, or you see where it may be, don't always take it from face value. It's only a starting point. You cannot look at numbers and say, oh, okay, it must be getting better, everything must be fine. That's not the case. One of the reasons why these numbers went down is in part because in 2013, a diversion court was created that allowed for anybody that may get arrested for prostitution to go through to help identify them as potential victims for sex trafficking. If they went through the program, the record gets wiped. So you may have the appearance that numbers are down, but that's not necessarily the case. You also have, compared to the other boroughs, it's really a matter of where the enforcement is and what the community wants in different areas. I can surely tell you that I spend 90% of my time in the Bronx, as well as John, as well as Thea, because it's very prevalent. Okay, some emerging trends to look at. First one being criminal enterprises and gangs. Increased usage of this because it's where the money's at, pretty much. Labor leasing companies. A lot of you guys might not know what this is, but if you look at a construction site and you see workers on a construction site, a lot of what you're seeing now is that general contractor, the person that's in control of that whole site, they hire a company to hire workers. A lot of those workers now are coming from overseas, and a lot of those workers are actually being forced by 2 or 3 times down the rung by whatever company hired them to do the work. This is a big one for you guys. Social media. Okay? The one thing I just want to get through to you guys is I know you're going to use it when you walk out this door. Okay? You do not owe it to anybody that wants to ask you a question or friend you on whatever site you're on, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, you guys use Kik, whatever it may be. Unless it's your mom, and you know it's your mom, or you're somebody that you know, you owe nothing to them. If some weird person seems to reach out to you, or somebody seems to know something about you, you owe them nothing. Don't friend them. Mobility is a big thing. So what you also see with what brings down those stats as well is that somebody that might have been, say, a pimp in the Bronx now goes down to Miami because he's got friends down in Miami. Goes back to the Bronx, goes to Georgia. So you see this disbursement of the perpetrators bringing victims to different places, and it throws off stats. Here are some of the red flags to look for, guys. If you come across a friend or somebody that you know and you start seeing any of these things, doesn't mean each individually means that they're a trafficking victim. But it should make you say, what's going on? Especially somebody that you know. If you know the person and things are starting to change or something just doesn't seem right, these are things that you need to let somebody, whether it's a parent or a caregiver or a teacher, whatever it may be, know about. The top one you see is the use of terminology such as daddy and wifey and the life and back page. Everybody know what back page is? No. So seriously, only one person knows what back page is here? That is good. That's actually great because a lot of schools I go to, too many kids know what it is. Does everybody know what Craigslist is? Okay. So back in the day, Craigslist got in big trouble because they posted, they were a lot of experts to use.
I used to use it for advertising back.
Craigslist gets shut down, Backpage is created, just like Craigslist. Same type of thing happens there. Backpage had to shut down their escort section, but everything within the next day moved to the relationship section or the dating section. So close. But if you hear anybody talking about this, talking about posting and things like that, this is not good. This is something that it should raise the hairs on your back. Yes, sir. One second.
On Craigslist, they sell their virginities. They're on a lot. They sell them.
You will see, unfortunately, you guys laugh and stuff, but it's at a premium. People will pay more for it. Because you had the confidence in yourself to ask that question. No silly questions. Might be silly answers. I can't promise you what I'm going to say. Alright, so this next part is the common barriers to seeking help, okay? You see a lot of these. Fear is the biggest one. Fear is almost always the foundation for it. You'll see lack of trust, doesn't know services exist. And I'll run through these pretty quick. Lack of support, language barrier, simple thing like that. We have the ability to get access to linguists throughout pretty much every language you can think of. Shame and embarrassment, cultural religious beliefs, in captivity, lack of transportation, does not identify as a victim, which is very common. It's the way of coping. And better than prior conditions. Once you get rid of fear, a lot of times everything else will go away a lot easier. Okay, do we have time for a 4-minute video? Yes? Okay. I want you to pay attention to this. This is an actual sex trafficking victim, okay?
When I was 15, I had my father. He was on drug death. He was a crackhead. And also, he was an alcoholic. He abused me from when I was 12 until I was 15. He raped me. I believe it was more than once because when I was 12 and I used to visit him on the weekends up until I was 15, he used to beat me down and smoke crack with him or drink with him. And he told me that he was going to get high on his own, but I think it's more so he was always molesting me. I was staying with my friend Anita, and she told me that she knows a guy as how we make Yamato, and was asking me if I okay with that. And I said, yeah, I really wanted to pursue modeling. I can't remember how old I was. I started looking model when I was a kid. I used to dream about it, like not only in my dreams, but wake up to, yes, I want to be a model. This is what I want to do. I was 17 at the time when I met him. And I got in the Dawn Entertainment business because of the fact that he asked me about it, and he told me the money would be used towards the money, and I believed him. When he told me about the Dawn Entertainment business, I didn't understand that it was an upscale call girl. I wasn't aware of the fact that it was prostitution. They use us young people because they can get older women to do what they want to do because they believe we're young and we're naive and we're not small saying they're right. And that's why they go for the younger people to target because they know they can get someone their age to do what they're asking them to do. And they know that they can beat off that. Everything I did as far as prostitution goes, he got all of them. I didn't keep nothing from him. And that's the crazy part of it all, because I really believed it was for the money. Yeah, I really thought this was a real legit thing. And somehow I found myself into this dirty game that I really believed it was a real job of mine, and it wasn't. He beat me, he had me in hotel rooms by myself for weeks. Go hungry, I didn't know what he wanted me to do. It's a trap once you're here, it's hard to get out of. It's really hard. I really thought that if I didn't leave, he'd probably kill me because I didn't want no longer to be a prostitute. So I had to ask myself, is this something I still want to do or do I want out? And if so, I had a chance leaving and had a risk of him coming after me and killing me. Because either which way, he might have killed me regardless. I had learned I was a victim. At the time, I didn't believe I was. I was like, hey, I volunteered. But then the day I didn't volunteer, it's something I was tricked into, thinking I can turn out to be a model. So I have learned, like, I really didn't sign up for this. And I'm glad I got away because I was able to prepare myself in my mom's relationship. And I was able to accomplish my goals. I didn't know nothing. I went back to school. I'm now a certified nursing assistant. I'm also a PCT, which is patient care technician. Everything I've been through and gone through is what changed my whole attitude. I want to be a certified nursing assistant. I want to be a registered nurse. I want to help people genuinely to where I want to give back. So definitely, that's why I said I'm helping first, and I'm grateful for that. If you're a victim and you went through this, there is justice for you, definitely. Now that there's justice for you, you don't be scared anymore once you evaporate and go to the police because they will be arrested to where to me you can breathe. I can breathe if I can finally put him behind me. And so I'm okay with where I'm at now.
Keep in mind for us, all of us that work that girl's outcome is incredible. And that's what we strive for. So we can put someone in jail, and if we don't get to that outcome, we consider it a failure. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to put someone right back on the path that they want to be. And that is what we're looking for. Okay. So, for all you adults, you can jump right to the second part of this. For all the kids, this is what you should do, okay? Now, I can say you can call me at urgent situations, but the reality is I can jump in my car right away from my office in downtown Manhattan and get there in 30, 45 minutes, but the local precinct is the one that's going to be able to respond the fastest. You can call us as well, and we eventually will get involved at some point. But the reality is that urgent situations, 911 is the best case to call. And then if you're not comfortable in calling law enforcement, there's 2 phone numbers here which can be found online as well. National Human Trafficking Hotline and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They are anonymous, believe me. There's many times where we try to find out who the person complaining was, and they won't do it. They will not tell us.
You can't see those numbers.
All right, last part. The rest of the prizes come out this time. All right, what would you do? This is scenarios. It's a slippery slope. All right. You receive a friend request from a stacked bottom. Never heard of her before, but she seemed to be interested in the same exact things that you post about every day. What letter is that? Which letter is it, buddy? to call the cops? You could, but who else? I didn't get any people over here. All right. All right. Yes. All right. B is the correct answer.
He said B.
Second question. You decided to accept a friend request from Stacks Bob. So you ended up doing it anyway. Shortly afterwards, you received a message from Stacks Bob who indicates her name is Jennifer. And she said she could see your post with love animals just like she does. She asked for your cell phone number. Which one of these do you think is the best answer? No, wait. Very good. People tend to, what you see is very common, they will troll your Facebook page. Because I know all you young kids, you like to put everything out there. So a lot of times, by the time they're trying to friend you, they know everything that you posted, and they know what you're about. So you have to be very careful about it. Next question, you give Jennifer your cell phone number. So, against your judgment, you decide to do it. She sends you inappropriate photographs of herself and asks you to send photographs in return. You... Anybody know? In the back. That is correct. C is the answer. I think we have one more question left. You don't send Jennifer your photos, but you continue communicating with her. Jennifer asks you to come to her house because she wants to introduce you to her daddy. Tells you that daddy gives her everything and can do the same for you. Which answer do you think is right? You have to jump back over. Young lady with glasses. A? That is correct. A is the answer. Okay, so guys, I'll bring you yours in a second. Reality check is law enforcement alone cannot stop this. We need everybody to help. This is the only way that we're going to be able to stop this once and for all. All right, everybody, thank you very much. I'll be back.
So thank you once again for the Gander. I wanted to recognize Troy Oswald from the Public Advocate Petition Dane's office who was talking today. So before I go to the next person, I hope it's okay if I mention this, that you should know that law enforcement officers are always watching and paying attention to everything that is happening, even right now. The last time that we met, that we had, whenever I met Agent Gander, there was somebody that appeared to be in clear distress. Well, not to the naked eye, but to the eye of a trained professional, was looking for these signs. So understand and trust that our friends in law enforcement are looking out for our best interests. So Agent Gander did it at the last assembly. There was somebody that was in distress. We'll go into, speaking about the demographics and like that. But Agent Gander clearly recognized that. So for that, please give him a round of applause because he's working doing his job at all times. And Detective Toronto as well. These two gentlemen spotted somebody in clear distress who came to the trafficking workshop. For whatever reason they did, we were, I don't want to speak about that, but they're working for you at all times. So just understand that and really appreciate the job that they're doing. So, Detective Toronto.
He works downtown Manhattan.
His office is downtown Manhattan.
Sorry about that. So, the next presenter, and she's a pastor at Bronx Christian Fellowship Church, recently a doctoral graduate, Reverend Q English, as somebody that has been doing this work in this space for quite some time. And we say not for sale, but Reverend Q would have to say not on her watch. So you're going to hear from Reverend Q English And she's going to do a video presentation that she's going to walk you through some of what she's seen, some of what a leader in this field is. So please give a round of applause to Reverend Q English.
Well, good morning. I can't hear you. Good morning. I'm so glad to be here and the leaders of tomorrow's school. Again, my name is Reverend Dr. Q English. You can just call me Rev Q, which is what I'm normally called. And what we're going to do today is we're just going to go through knowing what our organization does first, and then I'm going to hit you with some true and false and see. This is for parents. Let me see the parents in the room. Okay, let me see the teacher coordinators, the parent coordinators. Fabulous. Okay, this is fantastic. So my organization, this thing is going by itself. Wow. So my organization is not on my watch, and we do a lot in the city. I'm the CEO and founder of that. I'm also the convener of what's called Traffic Free NYC, and that's where I bring together all of the top deputy commissioners from NYPD, the leaders of ACS, from Safe Horizon, all the service providers in the city once a month so that we can think about what are the things we need to do in order to eradicate, get rid of this horrible atrocity in New York City. And so we've come up with some of the top 3 priorities in the city. We had our youth celebrating survivors meeting yesterday. It was extraordinary, but we were able to roll on our top 3. And the top 2, the number 2, is that we need more intervention and prevention in Department of Education. So we really need to wrap our hands around it. My church is right here in the community. I'm on Bethel between Paulding and Laconia. We do training there, but I also have a training center down on 2 Washington Street. And so I'm going to go through this based on the time that I was allotted. And I promise I'll be with you all. We're having problems with this one. It's not allowing me to change the slide. We'll give this fixed in just a minute. Okay, so we launched in New York City by thousands of concerned individuals joined the movement to stand in solidarity to address the thousands of individually, mostly women and children, forced into these 2 different types of human trafficking. But today I'm going to be focused on sex, slavery, sex slavery, and/or murdered in domestic violence relationship. So we engage citizens in committing to education, training, and advocacy. Our goal is to reach about 1 million folks by 2020 through education, training, and awareness campaigns. So it's not just in one setting. So far, I've trained over 3,000. 1 year, we've had over 2,300 children lost to sex trafficking in New York City, average age 11 and 14. And that was reported a while ago. We have borough directors represented in all 5 boroughs, including Long Island and Westchester. They serve as leaders of the movement in their respective communities. They hold forums and launch awareness campaigns in an effort to grow the movement. We have over 3,000 that have attended Not On My Watch national conferences since the inceptions. They come from federal, state, United Nations, city agencies, government agencies, faith-based and community organizations. I have representatives from Homeland Security, and we get together just based on training and exchanging best practices, engaging advocates, building a coalition, attacking policy, and increasing faith-based participation. So we have an arm called the Safe Haven Network, and that network is the whole faith component of the Not On My Watch Inc. It is houses of worship. I have over 300 participate in a faith-based led training that equips them to become safe havens for victims and survivors of domestic violence and human trafficking. I have a 3-day training that we do, And we do it for DV and HT. HT is human trafficking. Each student is required to perform an action project prior to graduation. They meet service providers, they meet government agencies to create the collaborations needed to have maximum impact in our city. We're about to have another training February 10th, where over 300 have already been registered for it. This is the number you would call if you are interested
Not on my
in
work.
participating.
.gov.
We also have a youth council. We meet on Fridays at 10:15 East Gun Hill Road. I'm training these youth to be advocates around human trafficking and domestic violence. And so while this was on autoplay, I'm going to leave this right here. So we meet weekly to discuss issues to their group. Victoria Pandel has been recognized nationally.